Bonjour, I am your host, Alistair. Quick recap. On our first episode, I detailed the consequences of the eviction moratorium on my property. Consequently, we had to evict the deadbeat tenant and it cost us roughly $20,000 to get the property back into rental standards. On the second episode, I showed you how I had to increase the rent in hope or in an effort to recuperate the income lost from 2021. Let's look into what changed for 2023. So the main change is that the rent went up. It went up from $1,850 in 2022 to $1,955 for 2023. It's not a huge increase, but it's a significant increase, and there's a reason for that, which I'll get to later. The second change, and quite frankly the most significant change, is my relationship with the tenant. Last year in 2022, he was stellar, paid on time, didn't make any fuss, didn't damage the property, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. And he's just perfect, absolutely perfect. And consequently, it's created a very good relationship between me and that particular tenant. Now, why is that important? We'll get to that further along in the video. So how much income did my property generate for the year of 2023? Okay, like I told you, the rent was $1,955. So that's a total of $23,460. Now let's start deducting the expenses incurred for the year of 2023. The first expense is the property inspection. Let me elaborate on that a little bit deeper. In the lease agreement, you are required to allow me to do property inspection twice a year, every 6 months. But when I increased the rent on that tenant, I've changed the terms of that lease agreement in regards to the yearly inspection, and I made it once a year. And the reason why is because that particular tenant has left that property pristine. So there was no need to intrude on his privacy, and there was no need to conduct 2 property inspections, because let's not forget, every time you do the yearly inspection, it's very disturbing to the tenant. You know, they have to adjust their schedule. It's not quite, it's disturbing. So once a year is absolutely mandatory and the very bare minimum, because I also need to get in there and understand what needs to be fixed before it becomes a bigger problem. The second expense had to do with the smoke detector repair. So in the inspection that the inspector did, which I did in January, he saw that the smoke detector wasn't working, so I needed to go there and repair it, which I did, and that cost me $170. The third expense has to do with the LLC. So I need to file proper documents to be in good standing with the state, and that cost me $309. That's a yearly operating expense. I can't escape that. The fourth expense is $30, and that's from the Department of Environment. That has to do with the water. Can't dispute it, can't fight it, just the cost of doing business. Here comes the unexpected expense. Sometime during the year, my tenant's mother came to visit, and unfortunately, a bedbug infestation occurred. Now, bedbugs are opportunistic travelers. They are regular bugs. It doesn't mean you're dirty. You know, you could catch them at the hotel, you could catch them anywhere, right? So when the tenant informed me of the first bedbug bite, he was very concerned that I was going to blame it on him. I said, look, listen, I understand bed bugs. I'm not going to blame it on you. There's no one is to be blamed here. It's just happened. Let's just treat it. Thank you for telling me about it ASAP so I can address it before it goes out of proportion. It took roughly 4 treatments and a whole month to be bed bug free, and it cost me $1,070. It's okay. Money well spent. The last expense is cleaning for the property. So what I do, if you are a good tenant, this is not something that's in the lease, and it's not something that's required of me to do. It's something that I choose to do as a value perk. It's a value perk for my tenant, is I do a complete thorough cleaning of the entire property at my expense. That costs me $200. So that's the expense sheet. Now, let's calculate how much of that affects my bottom line. Deducting the entirety of the expenses for the year of 2023 from my profit line, we come out with a final number of $21,481. But we're not done yet. My mortgage for the entire year comes out to $13,178.28. So we're going to remove that from our profit, and that comes out to a total of $8,302.72. But we're not done yet. Let me just remind you that in 2021, unfortunately, we had to evict a tenant, which cost us a total of $20,000 and change due to the fact that I could not evict the non-paying tenant because of the eviction moratorium. Thanks to the rent increase in 2022, I was able to bring that loss down to $11,128.28. So let's see how much I'm able to recapture this year in 2023. My profit is completely again wiped out, and I am in a negative again to the tune of $2,825.56. By the way, if you are enjoying this content, press like and subscribe if you haven't done so. It really helps my algorithm and the channel a ton. Thank you, and let's continue. The reason why I really wanted to show these numbers, and the reason why I picked this particular property, because that's the property that I experienced the eviction moratorium with, and that's the property that has given me the most headache, and that's the property that really reflects what the market has been ever since lockdowns have been lifted, ever since the eviction moratorium have been ended. If you remember very well, the news is like, oh, rent has increased, oh my God, oh my God. My rent has increased significantly from $1,450. Matter of fact, in 2024, the rent will have to go up to what? $2,175. That's a 50% increase in rent in a span of 2 years. That is bonkers, and people will pay for it because it has become a lot more profitable to have the property empty than to have a deadbeat tenant, because it would take me 4 years to recuperate, 4 years and 50% rent increase to recuperate the damages done by one bad tenant, because states and courts did not want to resolve and mediate issues of non-payment of rent. And if it's important for me to show people, anybody who will listen, anybody with a little bit of critical thinking, to understand that the damages of the eviction moratorium is the reason why your rent is going through the roof. The consequence of that increases rent. It's making lawmakers tighten the grip and making it very difficult to resolve issues of non-payment of rent. Consequently, it's making landlords increase their rent even more and tighten their restrictiveness to prevent a potential non-paying tenant. Do you see the domino effect here? Do you see how, do you understand how that eviction moratorium is the root causes, is the reason why everything is starting to become out of whack? And people might say it's the landlord. It's not the landlord. It's your elected officials. They are the one who's wrong. What people need to focus on, and what the politics need to focus on, is on building more housing. You want to bring the price down, you create more supply. Period. I mean, look at the interest rate right now. Nobody is going to sell. I would never sell this house at 2.6%, 2.5%. Never. So the supply is going to shrink even more. People who are selling right now are people who have no other option. But nobody's going to put anything on the market. And so your rent is going to keep rising. And look, I am just the lucky one. People don't realize that. Like, I'm the lucky one. I got my tenant out in just 8 months, 7 months. Some people have yet to get their tenants out, and they're living rent-free for over 4 years. Look at New York. How do they recuperate that income? It's gonna take me roughly 4 years to get 2021 to nullify. 4 years for me to even break even, because I've yet to really bring that money back into my pocket. Everything is going back and paying myself back. I'm not seeing any of those dime. All that performance I'm showing you, it's going towards paying my operating costs for the property, upkeeping the property, of course, dealing with the taxes, of course, paying the mortgage, of course, but also paying me back for dealing with the $20,000 bill that I had in 2021. I've yet to break even. I will break even next year, but I'm still in the red. You might say to yourself, oh, but the tax break and stuff like that. But if you don't understand cash flow, then don't tell me you're by tax break. That's a complete different story. I really hope this opens someone's eyes, and I really hope this little series really showcases that, landlords are not the issue. The issue is a very, very abysmal supply. There are no houses. There's no supply. Okay, that's it for today, friends. I will see you next time. I am your host, Alistair.